torture, 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 torture.
So with that new theme tune by Chris, do you want any more?
Torture.
We're not just about torture today, though. This
is all about a torture.
No, this is episode 4.
Episode 4.
Intelligent ways.
Intelligent ways?
Chris did say put a question mark after it, so it is intelligent ways.
Intelligent ways. So
this episode looks at the methods used in policing and those in power to find the truth in regards to crimes, how they elicited confessions and thought would show them the truth. Basically, it's a wide gamut. This is another one of your free-form jazz episodes of just speaking as it comes.
My jazz hands are going mad as we speak.
I know. God, put them down. They're not ready. He's not moving them. He's lying. Oh, no, there they are. There they are. They're good.
This isn't exhaustive. I mean, it might be exhausting, but it's not. But it's not exhaustive. And to be fair, I think we'll revisit some specific aspects of this later at another date.
Yes, we shall. I mean, this episode has so many bits in it that are really fascinating. So this is basically our trailer for things to come.
Yes.
But yeah, so we're looking at things of what people have done and what people have done and what people still do to try and either elicit confessions or in some cases say it's punishment, but it ain't. It's just
punishment.
Torture.
Oh,
not
torture.
Punishment. Well, that was part of it. I was thinking we start with something as awesome as phrenology.
Phrenology.
Chris, what is phrenology? Phrenology?
It's, well, first of all, I'm Chris.
Oh, fuck that. I'm not telling them who I am. I'm secretive.
That's Christian.
Oh, I'm Christian.
This is Echo On.
Hey, I forgot. This is a regular thing now, I think.
That you just forget to
I'm
do
going
the
to forget
introduction.
to do that. Yeah, so let's pretend I didn't say anything. Go on, Chris. Start.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Christian.
And this is Echo On.
A true crime podcast. And welcome to episode 4. And let's hope you enjoy this. And if you don't, you will. There's no way you can't. We're addictive. We're basically audible heroin.
Yeah, human crack.
Oh, what?
What?
No.
Human crack. No, that's...
So yeah, we're going to... Our first subject of this intelligent ways is going to talk about phrenology, which is basically, in essence, phrenology. It is a test, an electrical test, which measures one thing.
You're talking
polygraphs. I meant polygraphs. Did I say polygraphs first off?
No, you said phrenology the entire time.
I thought you
just changed the order of the stuff. I was just going with it.
Wow. Oh, no. I've ruined it. Well, let's quit. I'm quitting. I'm quitting now. But yeah, so apologies for my faux pas. First subject is not phrenology. That's coming up, though. It's polygraphs.
Polygraphs.
Yes. So, right. So the first subject is polygraphs. Which is, in essence, a test to measure anxiety, really, because that's what it does.
No, it's a lie detector.
No.
It can tell if you're lying. I saw it on Jeremy Kyle.
Jeremy Kyle still does it.
Yeah, and every single episode,
Yes.
if someone goes, no, I wasn't lying, he says, but it says you're lying. Now, he can't be right all of the time. At some point, that poor inbred soul on Jeremy Kyle...
Mm-hmm. Which is like Jerry Springer for those people who aren't English.
He did do a couple of series in the States of...
No one wants to know about that.
No, it didn't last for him.
There's Leonard Sachs, a psychologist at Brandeis University, conducted research into polygraphs and said, and I'm going to read out a quote, which is actually quite good.
Quote.
There is no unique physiological sign of deception. There is no evidence whatsoever that the thing the polygraphs measures, heart rate, blood pressure, sweating and breathing, are linked to whether you are telling the truth or not.
You know, I can tell when you're lying, Christian.
I open my mouth.
Yes.
There we go. But yes, and there's the National Research Council. They were a thing. Mm-hmm. Didn't know that in America. They concluded almost a century of research into scientific psychology and physiology provides little basis for the expectation that a polygraph test could in any way have extremely high accuracy.
Right. So it seems fairly well defined at this point that phrenology, I almost said, that polygraph
is bullshit.
Bullshit. It don't do nothing.
Yeah, it's a lie. It's
them man be gassing.
I know, but even in 1988, the US made it a legal precedent that you cannot use a polygraph test on your employees, because previously employers were using it on their employees to find out anything, oh, have you stolen anything or whatever it was. They used polygraph tests thinking that was the thing that was going to be the truth. I mean, fucking dumbasses.
Yeah. I know that they still, police forces still use it. But
the police forces, federal employees, probation officers, even anyone in any form of law can actually use it. They're just not admissible in court.
Yeah. So I know it's inadmissible in court because,
it's bullshit.
It's bullshit. Did we mention it's bullshit?
No, what was that?
It's bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
But they still use it, and they use it as they use it as a tool, don't they? More to pressurize the person who.
Yeah.
Effectively, they're only going to use it, I think, on someone they're fairly sure is guilty.
Well, it's Leonard Sachs, the guy I spoke about earlier. He said that it's two things.
Yep.
The first thing is a prop. It's basically what he calls the theatre of interrogation. Because if the examiner does this theatre well and tricks the subject into believing that his or her lies can be detected, they possibly might confess. That's what a lot of people do. The other one is simply a deterrent.
Yep.
So, say a sex offender believes that they're going to be regularly subjected to accurate lie detection tests. That suddenly will put into their head that committing any crime whatsoever will land them immediately back in jail, and there's no way of them needing evidence.
Yep.
So it is literally, they are trying to fool dumb people who don't know better.
Yes.
And to be fair, that if it is this whole theatre of interrogation, is kind of an awesome thought that people are using that.
Because I'm pretty sure as well, probably could be talking out of my ass. I'm pretty sure they don't open with, we're going to give you a polygraph test. They question them, and they'll use it as a tool of interrogation within a broader, larger picture. Presumably after they've already talked to someone for fucking hours. And also, I just learnt the other day, which I hadn't realised, and maybe it's obvious.
Yeah.
I always had it in my head from like movies and stuff. They sit you down, they strap you in, they ask you, your calibration questions. What's your name? What's your age? Where were you born? This, that, and the other. Then they ask you your questions. No, they do hours of work beforehand. So you're in the room with the polygraph kind of expert, and they act as if they don't know anything about your case, and they talk to you, they build rapport, they talk to you about what you've done, what you're doing, about the case, but in a very coming across like they don't know anything about it, where in fact they're just another police officer who knows everything about your case. But it's building a relationship and building a rapport for a good couple of hours before they even get to the polygraph, which adds to the, as you were saying, like the theatre of interrogation.
But there are professional polygraphers. There are people who do this for a living, and they actually believe everything they're doing is right. And there's been interviews with some, and one of them has said, God gave us this tool to make a better world.
Oh, you're a fucking tool.
Yeah. I mean...
Not you, I mean the person that you're quoting.
But no, it's like... there's another thing Sachs said, the last quote I'll give it. He says, people want to believe in a just world. And in a just world, people cannot get away with lying.
Yes.
And if you look at that, and it is, I think polygraphs have propagated a lot because of religion. Because this belief that liars must be punished, that you can tell when you're lying, that we can if you tell a lie, we can find out about it.
Yeah.
It's a holier than thou thing that they believe, which links into phrenology later on.
Yeah.
That you're believing that just because if I ask you, oh, did you kill this person? And you say, yes, I totally killed them. That doesn't mean you killed them. But polygraphs back in the day, somebody would have been convicted on that and tried and probably executed.
Yeah. It's this, we now know that people falsely confess to crimes, and we know scientifically that polygraphs are bullshit. But like you said, you still want to believe. And you still allow this level of kind of cognitive dissonance to say, no, but it must be right because they've used it for years. And no, why would people admit to? I would never admit to killing someone if I hadn't done it. So why would people do it? Because, like you said, ultimately you want to believe in a just world where you can't get away with shit.
If you haven't got evidence against someone, you've got no power over them because they basically, you have to let them go. It makes sense that this was developed. It's like No, this is it. But I know better than you. You can just say what you want, but I can tell when you're lying because this magic machine, God has told me, will fix everything.
Because it does. I mean, it makes certain. You can kind of get it why you think it might work until you know science that it doesn't. To a certain
degree, it does. If you are a kind of person who gets only anxious when you lie. Yes. Then it 100% works, but no one is that simple.
If I was being interrogated for something that I hadn't done and I did a polygraph test, I think there's a big chance I would fail because I have I've had like no run-ins with the police in my entire life. I would be shitting myself. I'd be fucking terrified they're going to get me for murder.
Even though you might not have done it.
My palms would be sweaty.
Because I'm kind of the way that, because I know it's bullshit, I would be convinced beforehand that I would fuck it up.
Absolutely.
Which would make me more anxious at those questions, going, I've got to answer this right. I've got to answer this right. But then my heartbeat will go up. I'll start sweating more.
Exactly. And the other side of that is if you've got a fucking like psychopath or sociopath, they're probably going to pass it because they don't give a shit.
And also they train American like FBI to and the military as well to beat it. They tell them how to beat it.
Absolutely.
And that's because when they fight in foreign countries, if they become caught by a enemy power or whatever they want to call it, and who still use this because most of them do, then there's no evidence against it. Even though it wouldn't matter, because if you're in I won't name a country, but let's say a dog shit end of somewhere, and you're caught, and they give you
Florida.
this, like Florida, and they give you this test, and you have passed. What's stopping them going? No, you failed. Says you're lying.
Yeah.
And it's but yeah, it's one of the things that is still used to this day, but now at least it's not done as a be all and end all.
No, like
unless you're on Jeremy Kyle.
If I was, I wonder if Maury probably uses it.
Oh, Maury probably uses it. Yes. I don't think Springer did. I don't know. I can't remember.
I don't know. I can't remember either. But anyway, if I was ever arrested for a crime I did or didn't commit, it's irrelevant. I would never admit to a polygraph test. I would never. I'd never let myself carry out a polygraph test. Doesn't matter if they say you think, well, it's going to make you look guilty if you don't do it. No, fuck you. I didn't do it.
Good. They make me look guilty. Just
the best case scenario, I pass it. Good. I didn't do it anyway. The worst case scenario, I fail it and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck you. I'm not doing it. I'm not talking without a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I'm not having a polygraph, regardless of guilt.
But it's like these kind of things. It's not. I can see why they believed it, but I cannot see why they still, to this day, carry it on. I get this whole theatre of interrogation things. I get that.
But that people still will still.
Yeah. Well, it's I see it the same as
succumb to it and have a polygraph done.
But I see it the same as the people, the mediums. I'm doing little bunny air quotes here, because. Like the polyographers who believe, a lot of them believe 100% that it's 100% true. A lot of mediums out there believe 100% that they're actually speaking to the dead, even though they're fucking not, because that's impossible.
I thought you meant a lot of mediums believe they're a medium, but they've been a large for a long time. But they're like, no, I'm still a medium.
There's that as well.
That happens to all of us.
But it's like, just because the evidence says otherwise doesn't mean you're ever going to change someone's view. Like religions, any belief system where
Brexit,
where the evidence points 100% to that's fucking dog shit. Don't be stupid. People will always believe it in the right frame of mind at the right place, and even the people who are in charge.
Yeah.
So we're lucky that it's just polygraphs and not like needles in the dick or something like that.
No, I mean unless you're Albert Fish, and then that'd be wonderful. You'd love to have needles in the dick.
But he might sweat and then be found guilty. So who knows?
Yeah, like a sexy sweat. Ooh, I love those needles. Prick and a prick.
Oh. But that'll lead us back onto the next subject, which I mentioned before stupidly.
Phrenology.
Chris, what is phrenology?
Phrenology. Okay, broadly speaking, if anyone doesn't know, you would probably have seen a picture of... You'd have probably seen a phrenology head.
Which is actually on the advert and is the image for this episode.
Yes. And what it basically is, it's a map of the skull with... And it says that various lumps and bumps would dictate various personality traits, etc. And it's based on the belief... So what's kind of interesting about it is, so phrenology, we see now, pseudoscience, nonsense, doesn't prove anything.
Bullshit.
But... slightly less bullshit in a way, because it was they were going down the right path when it first gained popularity in the 18th century. Was it when it was first?
1796 by the German physician Franz Joseph Gall.
They were starting to understand that the brain was the center for what we do, how we act, how we think.
Yeah.
And they were starting to understand that different parts of the brain, different areas of the brain were responsible for various things.
Yeah.
Where they went wrong was they extrapolated out to think that the brain, basically your brain wears your skull like a glove.
Yeah.
And it forms to the shape of your...
So if you've got a bad brain, it won't be the right shape.
No, it'll be weird shape.
And your skull will match that.
Yeah, and you'll have lumpy, bumpy skulls or like...
Lumpy, bumpy skulls.
Yes.
But there's books about this from 1902, which is basically between 1810 to 1840 is when it became big, but it did carry on up until the early 1900s. Like it's 100 years of people
that feels
believing
late.
it. But there's there's books of Vaught's Practical Character Reader, and I'll put a link to this.
Is this what you were showing me before?
I was, and they've got like
This is
side
great.
profile drawings of that. This is for a lady, for a genuine husband, and it has a thing saying, "Young ladies, indelibly fix the shape of this head into your memories. Any man who will make a natural, kind, and true husband will have a head in the outline form of like you see here." And on the other page, it's the unreliable husband, and furrowed brow, underbite, big nose, slanty ears. It's ridiculous.
Slanty ears.
He's got slanty ears, or big ears actually. He's got big ears because that was one thing. But no, this was not a thing that was just for the scientists. This was posited to normal people as a help guide to how to find the love, how to, even if you're becoming friends with someone, literally, if they've got big ears and a slanty forehead, don't go near them. They're probably a bigamist, which apparently was a bad crime for them. That was the thing. Bigamy! Oh, great. All right. Brilliant.
Very bigamy.
Yeah,
it's not very biggy.
It's big you,
Also, I've just read, just as you're talking, I was reading something, and I found this interesting. So I feel like we should be fair to the people of the time. Apparently, the methodological rigor of phrenology was doubtful even for the standard of its time, which I think is kind of interesting. That it was an idea, and it was a theory, and it was a thought, and it was based in some good science with the brain. But there was already people in the 1800s saying like, "Nah, mate."
Well, it was after it was developed. It took 14 years for it to become influential in any way. But then it was only influential in certain places. Like most
certain people.
Yeah, to be fair, yes. And it was always the places where they was used was white society.
Yes.
They were the ones and it was...
When you look at some of the physical traits of the skull and skull shape that were seen as like negative or poor would quite closely relate to people of African descent skull shape.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a fucking coincidence. That stinks of white people trying to prove that black people are less.
Yeah, because apparently only a small thin nose means you're a good person, according to this. And it's like, well, you're basically just dealing with Western white people's fear of anything foreign, and they're basically, because racism wasn't a bad thing then, it was a thing. It was like, if you're racist? It's like, yeah, of course I am. It's like, are you blonde?
But why you've got people who are like, I guess in the 1800s, you're getting people against, trying to talk against slavery and this and this, all of those things. If a dickhead white man can turn around and say like, no, I've got scientific evidence to show that they're a lesser race.
Yeah,
it justifies it somehow.
It's ridiculous because unlike all empirical research has always discredited it. It's never been seen as, oh no, this is definitely right. It's just it was the minority of influential people doing it. And to be fair, it's a fucking fascinating thought that they've got this side profile drawing of a head, and they've got all these aspects of parts of the brain and what that part of the brain does. And if somebody's telling you that, and they're in a fine suit and they're an older gentleman going, "Oh, this is science. Look at this," you're going to believe them back in the day.
Well, the thing is, like, even going off on a tangent a little bit now, but there's psychological studies to do with influence and perception and stuff like that. And there's there's a Harvard prison study, and there's the other study whose name I've forgotten who did it, where they thought they were electrocuting people, and people were willingly giving like electrical charges to people that would kill them because the person telling them to do it had a lab coat on, and they thought it was in a test, and going like, no, go on. And there's the thing, that's in human nature to believe someone in a position of perceived authority.
Yeah.
So back in the day, posh white men were the authority figures.
Yeah, even though these are the same people that would have said the earth was flat and things.
This is interesting actually as well. I'm just like, so you were saying Gaul.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? So there's this guy called Bruce I don't know his first name. He said, he's a disciple of Gaul, he proclaimed that Caucasians were the most beautiful people, while people like the Australian Aboriginal and the Maoris would never become civilized since they had no cerebral organ for producing great artists.
Of course.
And also, a few phrenologists argued against emancipation of slaves. So apparently a lot of phrenologists thought, no, we should emancipate the slaves. But they argued that through education and interbreeding, the lesser peoples could improve. So basically,
they should fuck each other.
If black people go and like reproduce with beautiful Aryan white people, they would be less savage.
So it's basically
They could breed it out of them.
This is basically it's a pseudoscientific justification for racism.
That's one of the things. It's fucking sickening. And like, if we laugh, it's because it's ridiculous. Uncomfortable and ridiculous, and it's given the respect that it should have, which is fuck all. Another thing as well. So they used it for gender stereotyping.
Okay.
Because they saw that women whose heads were generally large in the back and lower foreheads were thought to have underdeveloped organs necessary for success in the arts and scientists, while having larger mental organs relating to the care of children and religion. So by looking at average women's heads, like shapes and ratios compared to men's is different, and gone, well, women are good at looking after kids, whereas men are good at like art and managing stuff and taking over the world. So therefore, you can't do both things. But they also, what I find really interesting is, while phrenologists did contend the existence of talented women, this minority did not provide justification for citizenship or participation in politics. We know there's some like statistical outliers. I know she's good at drawing, bless her. She's quite good at it.
She ain't one of us.
But she can't vote. Fuck you.
But then there's the whole thing of you talking about like the precursor to sort of psychiatry, and phrenology was not looking to punish. It was looking to rehabilitate and reorganize the disorganized mind.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like we're taking the piss, and it is, because it is a pseudoscience. But actually, they pointed it kind of pointed people in the right direction in a way, didn't it?
Yeah, and it's like the one thing they did is they apparently did for anyone they classed as insane, a brute, a criminal, they had a reward and punishment thing, like training a dog. Basically, that's the way they reorganized the brain. They actually did a reward and punishment thing. So, do this. You're not doing it. Well, you're going to get punished. Do this. Oh, you've done it. Here's a treat. It's literally, that's the way they thought of reorganizing it, because they saw their brain as being more basic and simple. Yeah,
so some classical conditioning.
Yeah, and you can't be intelligent if you've got one of these brains.
No, so you can be retrained.
Yeah.
You can ring a bell and salivate because you think you're going to get fed, like Pavlov's dog.
Well, but that's why lunatic asylums in Victorian era, phrenology provided their arguments for sort of reforming them. Instead of just locking them in a cellar and never going to them, that's why in Victorian era, the asylums there, they actually had classes, and actually them, I mean, yes, they lobotomized as well and tortured them, which is good for this.
Put them on display and...
Yeah. But that's what they did. I mean,
comas and loads of shit. But
fair, it's bullshit, but with the best of intentions.
What's interesting, again, like it's like so many things, because it was a pseudoscience, because they didn't have the technology yet to prove it 100% each one way or the other. It could be used for both ends. Like if you've got something that's a science that, as far as we know, is an absolute truth, for example, like an absolute fact.
Yeah.
You can't really twist it. You can twist it in somewhat, but you can always come back to like no, because this. Black is black and white is white. You can't change it. Because phrenology was a pseudoscience and they were trying to understand it, it could be used for both as a like stick to hit people with in like the racism thing, but it could also be used as a we're identifying these idiots and
we're not persecuting them. We're just telling you.
Also, I'm using idiot because it was written down in the text. It's not my word, by the way.
Was it idiot, brute, or insane? That's the branding of them. But, so a serial killer would be a brute.
What a brute! Absolute brute!
What a brute! I can't believe he's done that. But yes, but no, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. But that's unlike polygraphs. I can see where this came from, and it did lead to a lot of great discoveries of people looking at the brain more, which is
like we said at the start. It was born out of the idea that people recognised that the various parts of the brain are responsible for behaviours, and if you have a disorder in parts of your brain, it causes certain behavioural problems or traits and things like that. So it was really, like you said, it led to some great discoveries.
But unfortunately, it also led to dickheads doing more of this shit. Yes. Like the guy that you told me about, and I had no fucking idea that phrenology went beyond phrenology and doctors doing studies of for psychiatry. I'll let you go for it.
Well, let's start. Like Cesare Lambroso. So 1835 to 1909. He was. So I'm going to read this. This is off the Wikipedia entry. So, but just for the first.
You mean the book that you researched?
The books I have researched. He was an Italian criminologist. I just like it because I think you'll see. He was an Italian criminologist, physician, and scientific racist. A scientific racist.
A scientific racist.
And founder of the Italian school of positivist criminology. He rejected the established classical school, which held that crime was a characteristic trait of human nature. He used concepts drawn from physiognomy, degeneration theory, psychiatry, and social Darwinism. He essentially stated that criminality was inherited, and someone born criminal could be identified by their physical defects, and they confirmed to a criminal as savage or atavistic. They do not have widespread support in Western countries. But yeah, so the reason I read that kind of out in a stilted way was the fact that it was already, before him, people believed that you weren't born a criminal, that there was certain things that you could do. And he went, no. Look at this absolute beast. He's clearly a criminal.
But it's always looking back at, and he kept saying the subhuman type of person characterized by physical features resembling apes or lower primates, and like calling them savages. Yeah. And it was again trying to play on racist stereotypes, on poverty, for anything that wasn't white people.
Was he? He wasn't another white dickhead, was he? That was in power.
Like, fucking get over it. Like, you're white. Congratulations.
So he postulated that criminals represented a reversion. That was it. Oh yeah. So he was basically saying that criminals were reverting back to their kind of animalistic traits, more primitive and subhuman types of person, characterized by physical features reminiscent of apes and lower primates.
But yeah, so all in all, Lambroso was a racist fucktard who really had no business.
No. But what he did bring us with, what I would recommend definitely reading him up, looking in some more detail, because it's really interesting for how nuts it is. But he had some of the ideas, like a couple of his ideas is you, Christian.
Yeah.
Because he said, extensive use of tattooing pointed towards having like less sensitivity and absence of remorse.
Fuck you.
Christian has
I regret nothing.
But also criminal epileptics.
Okay.
Are you a epileptic?
I was in my youth.
You was an epi.
I was an epi in my youth.
You were an epi with tattoos.
So what's criminal epileptic?
You're incredibly...
Does that mean you commit crimes while having a fit?
Maybe he means people that like black out and cause crimes, but I like to think he means anyone that's epileptic is a criminal.
Well,
so
that's true.
If you're epileptic and tattooed, you're a double criminal.
And this whole thing is basically against any poor people, because poor people were people who got tattoos, and anyone of any non-white persuasion.
Yeah,
that's basically it. It's basically saying unless you're white and middle class and up, you're a criminal.
Yeah, you're a criminal.
Wow. But he was not just against that. He was against women as well. So it's basically, if you're not white, if you're poor, and if you're a woman, you're a criminal, basically.
Yeah, but if you would if you were one of the people that he saw as lesser than him,
so if you weren't him, he was basically saying everyone's a criminal if they're not him.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, exactly. And this is interesting. So later in life, he gave some recognition to psychological and sociological factors in crime.
Oh, well,
so the stuff that people already knew that he's
finally
fucking ignored. Towards the end of his life, he went, "Oh, that might be true, but what I said is more true." So he said, "There's some aspects of that, but basically,
what I said was true.
The way your face looks and your epilepsy and tattoos makes you more of a criminal."
I am a criminal.
After he died, his skull and brain were measured according to his own theories, and his head was preserved in a jar, and is still displayed at the Museum of Psychiatry and Criminology in Turin.
But his
who wants to go to Turin?
Yeah, I do. But the measurements, was he a criminal?
I don't know.
That's like
I really want to know.
Oh, it's a cliffhanger. Well, if it was the end of the episode, it'd be a cliffhanger, but it's not. We are going on to now. But basically, I'd say the last subject, but it's a big subject, is torture. So yeah, torture. I mean, bear in mind that we've been talking about like ways of policing and that. Torture is the biggest, the most used, and the most ridiculous.
Yes. So I think, starting with torture, I think the first thing we're going to talk about is waterboarding. Which is, if you believe the American government, I don't know about the British, probably the same, normally complicit in stuff and just follow along.
Shall I read Donald Trump's quote about it?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's read a Trump quote. This will be great.
This was basically Trump as an English person, because I can't do his accent. So, Torture works, okay, folks? Believe me, it works. Waterboarding is your minor form. Minor form, fucking hell. Some people say it's not actually torture. Let's assume it is. Oh, thanks, Donald. But they ask me the question, what do you think of waterboarding? Absolutely fine. But we should go much stronger than waterboarding. That's the way I feel. Like, really,
So
apparently waterboarding is the minor form.
So well, I've got two things to say here. So prior to Trump being in
Should we say what waterboarding is?
Oh yeah, go on.
People might not know what waterboarding is.
So isn't it waterboarding? They lay you down, they put a cloth over your face,
Yes,
and they pour water over it to give the impression of drowning.
Yep.
Or so that you're drowning.
Yeah, basically.
It covers your nose and your mouth, and the water just covers your nose and mouth. So it doesn't go into your lungs, but you can't breathe or do anything.
You can die from suffocation from waterboarding, which a lot of people have.
That doesn't sound great.
No, it isn't. It's basically you are being suffocated with water. And apparently that being a minor form of torture, yes, I get what he means by that, because you don't have any physical things from it.
The Americans call it enhanced interrogation technique.
Personally, enhanced interrogations techniques for me is them putting a more stern face on and leaning closer.
Yeah. I reckon having someone who's trained in interrogation, that would be enhanced. If someone's like an expert, an expert interrogator,
but
I would say that would be
enhanced.
An enhanced interrogation technique. Making someone think they're drowning is, I think, torturing them.
Yeah, but this is like waterboarding in its modern form. It didn't used to have the cloth there. Back in the day, it was literally, well, first it was drowning. Yeah. Literally dunking someone's head in it and just drowning. And it is just the evolution of drowning without killing. Mm-hmm. But people still die from it. Which is, I don't get how waterboarding was ever seen as acceptable. I don't see how torture is seen acceptable, seeing as, like polygraphs, it is bullshit, because people will say anything not to be in pain.
So I just want to go quickly back to Trump's quote one last time. It's almost as if Trump has taken widely acknowledged facts
you're talking about the President of the United States.
The President of the United States, yeah. He's taken something that's factual, such as the fact that torture isn't a reliable way to get truthful information, and completely fucking ignored it because he just believes something else.
Are you saying that the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America is a stupid fucktard?
Yeah, stupid fucktard.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think
probably a Scientologist.
I think torture works, and climate change isn't real.
And Mexicans are all rapists
and murderers. But you were chosen by God, and it's okay for you to grab someone by the pussy because you feel like it.
How do you do? I'm sorry, but the whole thing of when he said grab by the pussy, you can grab somebody's arm. There's not a lot of unless it's really puffy.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can cup a pussy. That's the best you can do.
He's fucking. I know this isn't about Donald Trump, but I just can't.
It fucking should be. The guy is a fucking criminal.
He's a fucking idiot.
Oh, by the way, for any of the American listeners we have that are Trump supporters, I would say I'm sorry, but I'm not. I fucking think he's a bellend.
Also, I do realise we're in England, and England has voted to leave the European Union.
We're as bad as America.
And now we're struggling to get a deal that will make us better than we were before.
We're literally
this is fucking stupid as well.
There is no way out.
I mean, we are not sitting in a position of
We're not in an ivory tower.
No, we're not in an ivory tower. We're identifying idiots everywhere we look.
Yeah, and when we have a quote from our Prime Minister saying that torture is okay, then we'll call her a stupid, dumb fucktard as well.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, definitely. So I've got an opposing quote for Trump, if that's okay.
Oh, an opposing. So taking that Trump isn't telling the truth.
This is a man called Andrew Sullivan from Imagination Land.
Is he the Commander-in-Chief of Imagination Land?
I think he might be.
Okay, good.
Although I think Trump lives in fucking Imagination Land most of the time. Don't he, this orange twat? So this quote is, "The one thing we know about torture is that it was never designed in the first place to get the actual truth of anything. It was designed in the darkest days of human history to produce false confessions in order to annihilate political and religious dissent. And that is how it always works. It gets confessions regardless of the accuracy." But it works okay.
But you look back look at some of the old torture devices. And obviously they're not there for somebody to stop halfway through and say, "Oh no," and tell the truth. Like the Judas Cradle, for instance.
The Judas Cradle.
Like that, at no point would somebody stop halfway through and go, oh, actually, yeah, I did it. I did a bad murder. And they go, okay, well, you can go now.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know what Judas Cradle, Chris, let's
Judas
enlighten
Cradle.
us.
So it was a tall, thin, stool-shaped device with a metal or wooden pyramid on top. Victims would be stripped, bound with ropes, and suspended above it. They would be lowered, usually very slowly, onto the device, and the pyramid would enter either the vagina or the anus. The amount of pain the device inflicted could be changed, so they could be rocked backwards and forwards on it. You could put weights on them. You could put them down on it and lift them up again. Sometimes they would drop them on it. They would pass out, so they would lift them back up, wait for them to wake up, and fucking do it again.
And they would sometimes put olive oil on top of the pyramid. Basically, it's sitting on a spot, making you sit on a spike that would rip you in half and kill you. There's no way you can survive from a Judas Cradle.
No, and to make matters worse, they rarely cleaned it. Yeah. So if you survived it, you probably died of like a bum infection.
Yeah. But you've got that. You've got the Judas Cradle, which for torture, like it backs up Sullivan's quote. It was not used to get actual truth.
Yeah.
It was used as it's not like a criminal punishment either. It's under the guise of we'll get the truth, but there's no way you can get out.
They've decided that this person, they had decided already that this person was like a witch, or this person had said something about against Christ or whatever it was, and fuck you.
Yeah,
we're going to get you to confess.
But it's the same as the witches' tortures from the trials, where they threw them in the water, and if they sunk and drowned, they were innocent. If they came to the top, they're witches and they can get burnt. So they're going to die either way. There's no truth in it. There's no science in it. But they believe
that sounds fine. It's almost as if they had an agenda.
Yeah.
That they will follow through no matter what.
But I did that. You sent some little research material on Judas Cradle. The thing that I really like, it says the number of spikes in one of the Judas Cradle chairs can range between 500 to 1,500 spikes. Surely you need one.
When I say I don't like. Like is the wrong word, but I'm going to use it. That 500 was the lower number.
Yeah,
that was the sort from 500.
But surely it wouldn't be. Wouldn't you just have one spike, one big spike that you can just lower on? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a torturer. I don't know.
It's very strange. It's not ideal.
But these sort of things, it's not like a quick torture either. It goes from hours to days, and just however long it takes them to die.
Yeah,
it's not like crucifixion where you just die. You're up there until you either starve or bleed out. This one is.
Or suffocate.
Yeah, but they keep you up there and that's it. Whereas this, they'll take you off it, put you back on it, and
meant
elongate
for torture. That was it.
Yeah.
Speaking of elongating,
yes.
Do you want to talk about the rack?
Oh, the rack. The rack's fun. They used to do it on a wheel. I only found that out from looking it up because I've always seen it as like lying down on the table, your arms and legs strapped up, and then they wind the two devices and it stretches you. It used to be done on a wheel where you get weights inside. But that is literally. I mean, people did survive the rack. That didn't always kill them. They were fucked up afterwards, but some people got taller.
Do you think, because back in the day people were quite short, it was a form of torture because then they'd come out and they'd be like 6 foot tall, or like 5'9", was probably tall.
Giants.
And then they'd be like, look at him. Fucking, look at legs over there. What's the weather like up there? That was the torture for the rest of their life. They were freakishly tall.
Yeah,
and they were constantly asked to get things from tall shelves.
That's lucky. Good on them. But then would they have tall shelves?
No, that's well annoying.
But yeah, I mean, this one is it's a slow thing. There's a lot of dislocating limbs, cracking bones, cartilage, and ligament snapping. But it's mainly done for psychological fear. Like that one was done as we've done it to this one person. Let them know we've done it to this one person. Yeah. It's always been a device of fear more than anything that they do use occasionally, like crucifixion. They didn't crucify every single thief. They crucified a couple of them to ward off the other ones. But it was the same kind of thing. The Spanish Inquisition obviously used it.
Nobody expects that.
Nobody expected it. This method was also sometimes used just to dislocate a few bones. And the torture often went too far and rendered the legs and arms useless. But it was done. It wasn't always done as a full torture thing.
That wasn't the. Well, it was torture. Well, it was actual torture rather than
killing them.
You weren't killing them. They were meant to be able to get up and walk away from it a little bit taller.
A little bit.
The idea of it's really
a baller. But then you've got other devices, like looking at that as like a deterrent. You've got things like the brazen bull.
Yes, if it ever existed. It's rumoured that the brazen bull existed in ancient Greek.
And it has been done in films and things like so. People do believe it was real, but there is no evidence that it was ever used.
I think there's like drawings of it and stuff, but I don't know if it was used.
And this was basically like when they put the person inside a big brass. Is it brass?
I think it was a big brass ball.
A big brass ball, and then set fire underneath the ball and basically cook them.
But what it would do, the idea of it was because it was a big brass chamber that they were in, and there was like the mouth of the animal would be like a hole. The person's screams would come out of it and would be amplified and would sound like an animal like screaming in pain, I guess,
Yeah,
writhing
but also
in pain.
done as a deterrent.
So it was a deterrent, yeah, everyone could hear and everyone knew. Check out this fucker. This was a punishment and a death rather than anything else.
But it was done as the elaborate way of burning them alive.
Yeah, like after that, we used, there was other
just burning them.
in the medieval times, they
Light
just
them on a fire.
simply burned them or boiled them, but they didn't bother putting them in a big brass ball.
So all in all, the brazen bull is just bullshit. If they're just setting fire to
It's
people.
brazen bullshit.
It's brazen bullshit. What a bunch of shit. But yeah, I mean, torture doesn't work.
It doesn't work. There's a paper I was reading by a guy called Carl Elliott called The Neuroscience of Interrogation, Why Torture Doesn't Work. And the first quote, it says, if you torture the data long enough, the saying goes, it will confess to anything. And that's the problem for scientists. The stakes are high for torture, but if you torture people, they will literally admit to anything.
So by definition, it cannot ever be used for crime. So Donald Trump's just lying.
He's done a lie again.
He's done a big lie.
He's ignored the truth and the facts to further his own agenda.
But yeah, as you see from this is obviously just a huge subject we're going over with this intelligent ways thing.
Yes.
There are lots of different things that, even to this day, are still used that should not be used, that are used for varying reasons. But in all, torture doesn't work. You can, unless it's actual proper psychiatry and actually looking at so many different factors of somebody's life.
Hurting someone until they say what you want them to say. The thing is, people will tell you what they think you want to hear just to stop it, just to get the pain to stop.
Although I have been guilty of some of the things we talked about today, for instance.
What?
No, it's in like, if they say, oh, this guy, whoever it is, celebrity or something, has been caught, he's a paedophile.
Yes.
Every time I look at it and go, oh, that's fucking obvious, look at him.
Yeah,
Every single time.
Yeah.
Which is basically dealing into the whole phrenology and atavism thing 100%. I'm there going,
Yeah.
well, look at them.
He looks like a criminal.
I mean, you look at like all the serial killers and everyone goes, everyone's guilty of it. Because they always go, oh, Ted Bundy. Oh, he was so good looking. That's really weird. It's like,
He
really?
doesn't look like a killer. All the other ones, you go like, his eyes turned black at that moment when, and you're like, no, they didn't. But you were terrified and you're filling in the blanks in your brain. That's So
absolutely. It's like we are all guilty of this. We take the piss out of it, but we are all guilty of it. Like I've been like sitting like at a train station, turn around and there's a guy and I'm just going, he looks fucking dodgy. He looks like a serial killer. I'll just move.
Was it your reflection in the mirror? In the window?
It was you. You were sitting next to me.
But yeah, so this is, if anyone is listening to this, if anyone wants to give us any ideas of like find out anything interesting about like old policing techniques, outdated science,
send us a message and send
junk
us a topic,
science, anything like that. Like we'd love to go. We really want to do a whole episode. Like at some point we're going to do a whole episode on torture, and we're going to do some more things.
To be fair, I think the torture might be a multi-episode thing because if we're going to be, I think we'll be probably doing torture through the ages.
I was just going to say exactly that. Yeah,
medieval, then to Victorian, and then to modern day.
So we definitely want to look into. So if anyone's got any information, anything they want to share, that is it. That was episode 4, done and dusted. We are everywhere at Echo on Pod, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Please give us a review. Give us 5 stars.
5 stars. Write something. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, and we'll see you next. We'll speak to you next time, where we'll be talking about the piece of shit that is Levi Belfield.
Levi Belfield. What a turd.
What a turd. Bye.
Until next time. Bye bye.